Hey everybody, Mr. W here again, and I wanted to talk to you today about how it's best to set up for streaming or for recording videos. And if you are having certain issues, that's what I want to address today. So let's say you are doing live classes first. Let's tackle that first. If you are doing live classes and you are getting feedback or complaints from the students that you're choppy, you're not clear, they can't see what's happening on the board behind you, let's address a couple of things with that first. So the first thing is always to make sure that you have set up your stuff near the router. So you really need to do your best to either set up a space near your router if you're using Wi-Fi to stream from, and if that's not possible, if it's possible to move the router closer to where you're going to stream from. So I'm really lucky because my space was our office and the router is right there up on top of that cabinet, and so that's really close for me. However, I also don't use the router because my computers that I use for streaming, and they're desktops, and I have them hardwired. So I have a Cat6 cable that runs from up there along the wall and then into the closet where I have my computer set up, and they're plugged in. That is actually the best way to make sure that you have the best connection possible, is to hardwire with a Cat6 cable. So if you're able to do that, get a large Cat6 cable. You can get them on Amazon for not that expensive. You can get big 50-foot or 100-foot ones, or I think you can even get 35 feet. You want to make sure that you get enough, and then you can just run it where you need to go. A lot of times they come with these little tack these little tack brackets, so that you can tack them to the wall, and they're plastic brackets and you can run the cable through it. So if you want to make it look super nice and have it run up along the edges or down along the baseboard, you can do that too. That's really the best way to make sure that your video is clear when you're live streaming. If that's not an option, if moving the router is not an option, and moving yourself closer to the router is not an option, you can try a Wi-Fi extender. Some of them are not that expensive on Amazon. The best ones are going to be over $100, but you can get mid-range ones for like anywhere from 20 to 40, and that will help you out a lot. Just make sure you read the reviews and pay attention to the stars. But I prefer to read the actual reviews on the product before I buy them. So you want to do a little bit of research there. So we did that for my wife is out in the other room, and she runs off of Wi-Fi. So there's a Wi-Fi extender in that room actually. It's not that far, but it did help a little bit with the clarity on her videos. Now for clarity in videos when it comes to being able to see what's behind you, then that's lighting best practices. So you'll want to make sure that whatever is you're writing on is well lit enough that people can see what you're writing on. So if they're saying, oh, your board isn't clear, that's probably a video issue. If they're saying it's too dark, you can't see it, that's a lighting issue. So you'll want to either make sure that the window, like I have the big window behind me, I have no choice in this room. So I have that closed, but I have a light up here so that I'm lit. And even when those drapes are open or those blinds are open, it's actually pretty easy to see me still. But I like to keep them closed on very sunny days or when the sun is hitting the patio like it is right now. So you'll want to make sure you pay attention to the lighting. You'll always want light hitting you or whatever is being displayed, not coming from behind you, which we've talked about in other videos too. So if you are having problems though with recorded video being choppy, you dropping out of them, whatever the case may be, that's also probably a Wi-Fi issue if you are recording using something in the browser. So if you're recording using Google Meet, or if you're recording using Screencastify, what you're doing is you're recording through your webcam, and you're recording it to something in the cloud, which means that if there's an issue with your Wi-Fi or your signal drops, the clarity of your video drops, because there's latency issues involved, and the resolution is going to drop on your video as a result. So what you'll want to do is record in some way to your device rather than record to the internet. So if you're using a PC or a Mac, you can use certain things to record. If you're using a Mac, you can use QuickTime. The QuickTime app that's installed on every Mac has the ability to record to your hard drive using your webcam. And then if you're using a PC, you can use something like Open Broadcasting Software, OBS, which is a little bit, that one I wouldn't suggest to use unless you're familiar with it. But if you have a Logitech webcam, you can use the Logi Capture, which is what I use for all of these videos. That's why it says Logi in the center side, because it's free if they have the little emblem, and then if you pay for it, that emblem goes away. And you get a couple other things, but I don't really think it's worth paying for, so I don't mind the little thing in the corner. So then what you'll want to do from there is you can then record straight to your hard drive and then just upload it to YouTube or your Google Drive or wherever it is that you're going to post the videos to. That will give you a far clearer picture than recording it to a cloud, because you'll always have issues, even hardwired in like my computers are. There are latency issues, there are issues with the resolution, there's all kinds of things like that that happen just because the signal in your area might drop in and out. So you'll want to make sure that when you're recording as best as possible to a device, to its storage, and then uploading from there. And then you can get fancy if you want to, and you can edit your videos like I edit things in, but that's really for people who are more into that kind of editing or into making the videos like that. If you're really just trying to get the content out there for your students, then you don't need to worry about that. Just record it in a best way possible so that the resolution is as best as possible so people can see as best as possible. You always want to make sure that things are clear for your students. So if you've been having those issues, hopefully those tips helped. And if you need help further, add some comments and I'll help you out as best as I can.